The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any states on account of sex. The 19th Amendment, passed in 1920, only 55 years after the Civil War.
This week on Civil War, Our Life Changed, we will be exploring the impact the Civil War had on women.
In the intro, you heard the 19th Amendment. Women now had the right to vote because of this amendment. Chances are this was a direct result of the 15th Amendment. When the 15th Amendment was passed in 1869, it allowed all men to vote. Men were still above women on the social pyramid, even after women had played a huge part in the men's freedom, thus starting the National Women's Party.
Hold up! What the heck was so great about women in the Civil War anyways? I mean, there were women spies, but everyone just thought they were men. How did they think they could convince anyone that they should have the right to vote?
Well, they became the head of their household and family businesses when the men went off to war.
Well, yeah, but...
They also began to work instead of staying home and taking care of their kids. And they started their own organizations and businesses too. This was the beginning of a shift in how women were viewed by society.
Okay, so I get the point. They did help keep America's economy up and running during the Civil War. But wasn't it ordinary for women to watch the house while the men were out winning bread and all that?
Well, you have to understand that though taking care of the house wasn't anything new, it fell solely on the wife's shoulders. She had no help from anyone else anymore. She couldn't shy away from simple but less pleasurable things, like disciplining her kids. In Catherine M. Wright's words, as husbands and fathers departed for the battlefield, white women were confronted with the strange new expectation of demonstrating authority and civic involvement.
Okay, what does that have to do with anything?
Well, they became leaders instead of followers. This had a major effect on women of this era.
Really? How do you mean?
Take Clara Barton. You may not know this, but she was the one who founded the American Red Cross, which was inspired by the International Red Cross. Just think about how much she did during the Civil War. She was considered the angel of the battlefield, not only because she would provide physical provisions such as clothes, food, or first aid, but she would also write to families of soldiers missing in action and tell them that she would look for their bodies.
Yeah? So what? That doesn't necessarily relate to today.
Actually, the bit about the Red Cross does. The Red Cross still runs today and helped over 620,000 people in Nepal after the earthquake in 2009. Now let me finish my thought, please. Women started to work outside of their homes too. Wright also said the outbreak of war drastically depleted the civilian workforce. Women were the obvious replacements, and they filled positions previously held by men, as well as those specially created by the demands of war. Poor women were the main suppliers for workers. Many were former slave women, although it's very ironic.
What? It doesn't surprise me or strike me as very ironic that former slave women were poor.
Oh, that wasn't quite what I was talking about. I meant that the Civil War was supposed to make slaves free, but the former slaves didn't have anywhere to go, so they signed contracts that pretty much put them back into slavery.
So no one was entirely free yet?
Nope, not many poor people, that is. They were now bound by labor contracts. These put the former slaves back on the farm for an extended period of time, and the employers didn't have to really pay them much at all.
That really stinks.
Yeah, you're telling me. But back to women. After the war, many women had duties that they hadn't had before.
Yeah, but the rich ladies, of course, didn't have to dirty their hands.
That's not necessarily true. Towards the end of the war, the Southern women had to be much more involved in things, like making uniforms, or they had to give up certain foods like sugar. Southern women gave up much more than the Northern women because the South wasn't as wealthy as the North. Their income from exports had been cut off by the Union for an extended period of time.
So basically, women became leaders, took on more responsibilities in society, but despite the newfound freedom, the African Americans weren't truly free and equal until 1968. Wow, those are some major effects on women then.
Yep, you got it. I can't wait till next week to discuss technology from the Civil War.
Civil War, Our Life Changed is produced by Hawk Incorporated, directed by Grace Ann Case. Our cast includes Miriam Gogol, Grace Ann Case, Joyful Opara, and Bella Smith. Researchers were Lane Flock, Bella Smith, Joyful Opara, Miriam Gogol, and Grace Ann Case. Tune in next week for Civil War, Our Life Changed by Technology.